Hey Narwhals, I'm your host Luke Narwhal, and welcome back to another weight loss video. Really hope you enjoyed this one. Hope it is helpful. Let's dive right in. Something I noticed about my grandfather. I've always been pretty close with my grandparents, and one thing I've always said as a half joke is how they have bacon, eggs, orange juice, and coffee with creamer every morning and never gain an ounce of weight. My grandpa is pushing 90 years old, and he's healthier than most of my middle-aged coworkers, and I doubt he weighs more than 140 pounds at 5'8" or so. I've always said this as sort of proof that metabolism means everything. However, on my most recent visit, I noticed that my grandpa actually eats one egg, one slice of bacon, and 6 ounces of orange juice, and never, ever anymore. Naturally, slim people are built from habits, not genes. That reminds me of how, in watching my aunt, I learned something I honestly didn't know about thin people. It was around 6 p.m., and she said that she wasn't sure she was going to eat dinner because she wasn't hungry. I was standing there, incredulous, saying, "But it's dinner time." I had no concept that someone didn't have to eat at mealtimes, and it was okay to listen to the body's clues. I have never met anyone with this famed metabolism that lets them eat whatever they want. It really doesn't make any sense either when you think about it. Unlimited access to food is a modern notion. For the vast majority of history, people had to deal with the regular famine and suboptimal nutrition. If for some reason there were some people who could eat a ton of food and not gain weight, they would have died out in favor of people with more efficient metabolisms. I have a friend who could easily be described as one of those people, if you didn't know him. But when we're out eating at a restaurant, he'll go all out. Seeing him, you'd think he should be a friggin' sumo with how much sheer matter he'll stuff down his throat. The flip side of this is that the rest of the day, this guy basically skips lunches or has a salad and has an almost zero sugar diet. Beyond any talks of metabolism, what should be studied is the reasons that push some people to eat way more than their body needs on a daily basis. I'm one of them, and I don't even get it. It feels like food addiction at times, while other people self-regulate seemingly without effort. So true. I live with my significant other and his elderly father. He eats identical small meals for breakfast and lunch every day, walks for about an hour almost every afternoon, and literally never just randomly eats anything, only his scheduled meals and always a small plate. A great show I recommend anyone is Truth About Slim People by Channel 4 in the UK. This is exactly as you say. People who can eat as much as they want simply don't want to eat that much. Skinny logic is the reverse side of the same coin of fat logic. People are very crap at estimating how much they eat on both extremes of the spectrums. I also read somewhere that people who are used to eating the same thing for a certain meal are less likely to overeat. There's a huge mental component to fullness, and part of feeling satisfied is just knowing that the meal is over. A side note, my grandfather used to have whole milk and ice cream every night, but he never had more than a small cone of ice cream and a 6-ounce glass of milk. I think that's a pretty good case for everything in moderation. Do they have those cute little orange juice glasses from like the 50s and 60s too? That compared to anything sold today look like glassware for children? My grandparents have those, and it only just occurred to me a few years back that it's because that's actually what a serving of orange juice is supposed to be, not the 1/4 of a carton-sized glasses I would have in my house. This is a good point. I think what trips people up is hanging out with their friends and seeing them drink a lot or have a huge meal, but you don't see them working out, and you don't see how that might be the only meal of the day, etc. I had the same epiphany when I moved to a francophone country, and slim women at work had these lush croissants for breakfast, bazillion fat and carbs per piece. Having breakfast with colleagues is actually quite common, apparently. And then I saw them eating. Tadam, half a croissant. Half. This portion control remains out of my reach. I know a guy that eats fast food literally every day and is a stick, but all he eats is nuggets with some sauce. At most, that would be like 500 to 700 calories. Really not much. I had a big wake-up call a few years ago. I was sitting there miserable on my lunch break because I wasn't eating enough calories when I saw my super skinny coworker eating McDonald's. I started wondering how come she can do that when I'm over here overweight and miserable. I went over to her to finish lunch and then saw that she ate about half her meal and stopped when she was satisfied. When I eat McDonald's, it's all or nothing. Gonna start my diet tomorrow kind of mentality. So I started noticing how all my naturally thin friends ate and noticed the same thing. A lot of them eat a lot less healthy than I do, but they don't overeat, and I think that's the key. Once I stopped restricting things like carbs from my diet, my cravings just about vanished, and I started eating like a normal human. I still have to keep track of my calories to an extent to lose the weight, but not cutting anything out was a huge game changer. I suspect your grandpa ate more as a younger, more active man. I know that my grandmother's appetite has decreased dramatically as she's gotten older. She's 120 pounds and really ought to be 140. I can confirm though that if you eat bacon and eggs every day, it's not as exciting and you don't want it as much. I can eat 2 eggs, 2 slices of bacon, maybe some fruit or a glass of juice, and a coffee and be full. And after a week, have zero desire for more bacon than that. When it's regular food, it's not exciting. I agree with this. I've only ever known one person who could actually eat anything they wanted and maintain a perfect physique. My dad was a freak of nature that way. My husband is naturally thin, but he runs every day, rarely eats sweets, stops eating before he's full, almost never snacks, and eats a predominantly whole food diet, etc. Thin people have better habits, unless they're metabolic unicorns. I love hearing about these sorts of meals. I knew a lady at a restaurant I used to work at who religiously got 1 piece of burnt wheat toast, 1 hard poached egg, and 1 potato pancake which was overcooked and burnt. She of course would eat this with a modest amount of water and some coffee. She got it every day and was easily in her 80s. Maybe that's the key, burnt breakfast food. Bad habits are so hard to break. I started school in the 80s and it was the time of starving children in Africa, saving the planet Earth, etc. I grew up with the mentality of having to finish everything in front of you because of the poor hungry children in Africa and reducing food waste in landfills. It was okay when I lived in my country because I was super active and food portions are small, so I never gained any weight. But when I went to study in Ireland, I got a shock on how enormous the food portions are. My boyfriend, now husband, used to buy 1 meal at an Italian restaurant and share it because the portion was huge and we wanted to splurge. I'd force myself to try to finish everything because I hated seeing my leftovers thrown away. The only reason I kept the weight off is because I was forced to walk everywhere. My part-time job required me to be on my feet, and I would ask the restaurant to pack up my leftovers if it was appropriate to do so I'd give it to the homeless person. I'm only starting to learn how to limit my portions in order to lose weight because food portions in my country have gotten bigger. It's a challenge because I actively have to make sure I do it. This really makes sense. I have a lot of siblings and we're all pretty thin. I realized that we all kind of don't eat that much. My mom was good about what we ate, but also made sure that we were in sports. But even more recently, she was telling me that you have to keep your habits in check. For example, when I met my husband, after a few months, I gained 10 pounds. And one of the reasons was that I let myself drink lemonade or soda at our dinner dates, plus we were eating out more often. Before that, I would never splurge on getting a sugary drink or anything extra. Now I live with his family and his mom makes cakes and they have soda in the house. Sugar habits are hard to stop once started. And that brings us to the end of the video, Narwhals. I really hope you enjoyed. If you did, please tap subscribe to join our awesome community, the Narwhals, and for more weight loss stories that help you stay on track. And here's our featured Narwhal of the day. Posted a while back and wanted to provide an updated side-by-side. Down 235 pounds in about a year and a half. 30 male, starting weight 460 pounds, and current weight 225.